Hi everyone, I'm Eric from Lonesome Reader. I hope your Christmas has been going well and that you've been getting lots of books for Christmas. Maybe more importantly, I hope you've been giving yourself lots of books for Christmas. Whenever I go out Christmas shopping, I find it hard not to buy books for myself as well as for other people. So I've been really busy this month reading up the past couple of weeks, trying to catch up on books published in 2016 that I haven't had a chance to read yet, and I've been reading some great books. But I've also been getting really excited about books that are being published in 2017 because a lot of publishers have been kindly sending me books that are they're coming out early next year, and a lot of them look really exciting. So I want to pick out some of the ones that I am most excited about reading and talk to you about them. So these are all books that are being published in the UK in early 2017. First, I want to talk about is one I'm really excited about. One of my favorite writers, actually, named Nadim Aslam. He's such a beautiful writer. He just writes so poetically and meaningfully and philosophically and really strikingly about people and clashes of culture. And so this new novel is called The Golden Legend. It is being published by Faber and Faber on January 5th. And it's about a woman who loses her husband. It's about secrets being broadcast within this city in Pakistan. And so Christians and Muslims are both afraid about their secrets being broadcast and let out. And so there's a sort of mystery behind who is letting out these people's secrets. So I'm really excited to dive into this new novel. Next is a book I'm sure many of you know about already, Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi. This was published in the States in 2016, and it's been phenomenally popular, and it is finally being published in the UK in January 5th by Viking. And I heard Yaa Gyasi read from this at a literary salon, at Damien Barr's literary salon at the Savoy Hotel in September, and it was so beautiful. It's about a story about two stepsisters, African stepsisters, and the story of their subsequent generations over multiple decades and centuries, and also the history of the slave trade. And it sounds like such a immersive, wonderful read, and I am very excited to get to it. And yes, what a beautiful cover. The next I don't actually have a physical copy for, I have an electronic copy for. It's called Little Deaths by Emma Flint. It's being published by Picador on January 12th, and I heard Emma Flint read from this at a showcase event, and it sounded really tense and gripping. It's about a working class single mother in 1965 who wakes up to find her two children dead, and she's accused of killing them. And there's the whole question of, did she kill them, did she not, and the mystery behind her life. And I've heard great things about this book from multiple people, including Anna at A Case from Books has been really raving about this book. So I'm really excited to read this new novel. It's a debut novel from a new author, Emma Flint. Next is a biography by Samantha Ellis, and it's been published by Chatto and Windus, and it's called Take Courage, Anne Bronte and the Art of Life. And Anne Bronte is someone I don't really know anything about, shamefully. The only Bronte I've read is Charlotte Bronte, and so I'm really excited to both find out about her life and the books that she wrote. So this is going to be a really exciting voyage of discovery for me. What about you guys? Have any of you read Anne Bronte? Do you like her? And do you want to know more about her life? Let me know in the comments below. Swimming Lessons by Claire Fuller. This is Claire Fuller's second novel. Her first novel, Our Endless Numbered Days, I absolutely loved. This is being published by Fig Tree on January 26th, and it's the story of a wife who's gone missing and the family that's left behind that has to try to piece together what happened to her through a series of letters that they find in the house, I think. And so they read through these letters and discover more about her life and her past, and also the husband's past. And I think that's a really creative, interesting idea. So I'm very excited to read this new novel from Claire Fuller. Three Daughters of Eve by Elif Shafak. This is published by Viking on February 2nd, and it is the story of three female friends in Turkey and Oxford in the UK, and their sort of unlikely friendship and the things that they learn from each other. I heard her read from this at a preview event, and it sounds wonderful. I just love the style of her writing, so I'm very excited to read this new novel. The End of Eddie by Edward Louis, and this is published on February 2nd by Harvel and Secker. And this is a French semi-autobiographical novel about class and violence and sexuality in France. And I think it is going to be an extremely promising debut, a really strong new queer voice. And I'm so excited to read this novel. Next is a book by my favorite author of all time, Joyce Carol Oates, and it is a huge new book. It's called A Book of American Martyrs. This is published by Echo on February 2nd in the US, and it will be published by Fourth Estate in the UK. And it is the story of two American families who are very different from each other, and at the center of the book is the issue of abortion. Joyce Carol Oates is never shy of writing about really pressing social issues of our time, and this is an issue I think she is going to tackle head-on in this novel, and I'm very, very excited to read it. Next is another huge novel, which I'm also very, very excited about, The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne. This is published by Doubleday, and it will be out on February 9th, and I loved John Boyne's last novel called A History of Loneliness, and this novel, I've heard, is his absolute masterpiece. So very excited to read this. I'm going to read out the little quote at the top, just because I think it's really striking, it really catches you. Long before we discovered that he had fathered two children by two different women, one in Demaleague and one in Clonakilty, Father James Monroe stood on the altar of Church of Our Lady, Star of the Sea, in the parish of Galleen, West Cork, and denounced my mother as a whore. And wow, what a gripping opening that is. So I think it's about the mysteries locked in this community of a girl born out of wedlock, and I think he is such a beautiful writer, so very excited to get stuck into this lawn novel over the winter months. Black Wave by Michelle T, and this is published by And Other Stories on February 9th. Now, Michelle T is a writer that has some notoriety, I think, in America, but she's really not known in the UK at all. So I think it's really exciting that this book is coming out. And it is about a woman named Michelle, who is described as a grungy and queer girl in 1999 San Francisco. And it's about her time in a bookshop. And I think it's going to be one of those books that just really wraps me up and that I get really involved in. So I'm very excited to read this. Next is Christa Dora by Tim Murphy. And this is actually an American edition that a friend of mine brought over from America. But this is being published by Picador on February 23rd. And I've been highly recommended this book by writers like Olivia Lane, who told me that I would flip when I read this book. So I'm really excited to get stuck into it. It's a epic novel, a story of a number of different people over the history of the AIDS crisis, basically from the early 80s until going into the future, I think. And so very excited to see how he pulls that off. I think this is going to be a very important and exciting book, particularly because I just recently read David France's epic non-fiction book, How to Survive a Plague, which is a history of the AIDS crisis. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out in fictional form. Next is one of the most anticipated literary novels being published in 2017, and that is Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders. And George Saunders is a hugely respected short story writer, and this is his very first novel. It is being published by Bloomsbury on March 9th, and it is the story of Abraham Lincoln and his son who died. And I think it's told in a very experimental way, I've heard, but still like very accessible. So it's sort of a historical novel, but told in a really interesting way. And I just love the cover that they've created for it. It is so beautiful. Look at that. Isn't that lovely? So yes, I've had great personal recommendations from people I trust who've read this already. So very excited to read this. Next is Spaceman of Bohemia by Jaroslav Kalfar, and this is published by Scepter on March 9th. And this is set, I think, in the near future, about a Czech astronaut who's sent on a special mission into space. And I think that plot sounds so exciting. So I'm really intrigued to get stuck into this book. And also I had another great personal recommendation for this novel by Lisa McNerney, who wrote The Glorious Heresies, who told me that it is an absolutely great read. And part of me is a secret outer space geek, but also it's supposed to be a really intelligent and moving novel. So very intrigued to get stuck into this. And finally, I want to highlight a book of essays by an Australian writer called Tim Winton, who many of you might know. He's written several novels. I absolutely loved his novel Breath. And this is a book called The Boy Behind the Curtain. It is being published by Picador on May 4th. And it has another great quote on the cover that I want to read out because I think it's really powerful. It says, "When I was a kid, I liked to stand at the window with a rifle and aim it at people. I hid behind the terraline curtain in my parents' bedroom with the .22, and whenever anyone approached, I drew a bead on them. I held them in the weapon's sight until they passed by. They had no idea I was lurking there, 13 years old, armed and watchful, and that was the best part of it." Which is a really tense, creepy quote. So I think these essays are really revealing and going to be really interesting perspective on the author's life. So I'm very intrigued to learn more by reading these essays. So those are my most anticipated reads for 2017, but what books are you really looking forward to? And what great books did you get for Christmas, or did you give yourself for Christmas? Let me know in the comments below. So I'll talk to you soon, everyone. Happy reading.